Mr. Ondrej Svoboda is our guest, and I'm very thankful for having him um, as our guest from the Theatre Institute from Prague, which is one of the best theatrical institute in the Eastern Europe. Mr. Svoboda will share their experience in any kind of documentation archiving projects they're working on, including a very famous international Prague Quadrennial for scenic art. I will shortly read his sublime biography, and afterwards I will invite him to present, to start with his lecture actually. Ondrej Svoboda graduated from the University of Olomouc. Since 1997, he has been working in the Arts and Theatre Institute. Since 2004, as a deputy director for the Theatre Institute. He has created and implemented several projects focused on digitalization and databases for theatre, project focused on digitalization and databases for theatre documentation. He directed the international project Theatre Architecture in Central Europe in 2008-2011, in the frame of which the online database of theatre architecture was developed, a digitalization project called Preservation and Presentation of Cultural Heritage of Czech and World Theatre, focused on processing rich photographic archive of Czech theatre deposit in the ATI, and the follow-up project, Virtual Study, which is a comprehensive online interface enabling the access to all the Institute's information databases and digitalized materials. He also participates in the international project European Route of Historic Theatres, in the frame of which the historic theatres across Europe are researched and promoted. He participated in several issues of Prague Quadrennial as the head of documentation in 2007 and 2011, and EU project consultant in 2011, 2015, 2019. From 2019, he participated in the project A Canon of Theatre Technology History. Mr. Ondrej Svoboda, I invite you to start with your lecture and to share with us all your knowledge.
Thank you for your invitation. I'm really glad that I can be here, and it's pity that I can't present everything in person, but I think it's this form will replace it in a fully in full, and that maybe I hope it will bring some advantages also, maybe. My presentation is quite long, so I'm sorry, and it's the main part of the presentation is focused on the theater documentation, how we do it in our institution. So I will show you the PowerPoint presentation on a screen, and I will talk about a lot of websites and web applications. Everything is linked from the presentation, and the presentation will be available for you after my speech, so you can go backward and learn whatever you find as interesting for you. And of course, I'm prepared to answer all your questions about the things which I will talk. So now I will share the screen with you. Yes, and we can start. Our mission, which we defined several years ago, is to provide the Czech and international public with the comprehensive services in the field of the theatre and individual services relating to the arts, music, literature, dance, visual arts, and so on. We collect, process, and provide access to collectible materials relating to the theatre. We conduct research and pursue educational activities. We participate in international projects and publish specialist and scholarly literature. The ATI is the state contributory organization that was established by the Ministry of Culture of the Czech Republic as the Theatre Institute. It was founded in 1959, and since the middle of 1970s, the institute has been based in the Baroque Mannhardt Palace on the Seletná Street in downtown Prague. You can see the building now. In 2007, the institute changed its name to the Arts and Theatre Institute. We use the abbreviation ATI. This was in connection to extending of our activities to culture policy research and to promotion of the other kinds of art than just the theatre. So we can say that our institutions has two separated but friendly and cooperative parts under the one roof. The common roof consists not just of the leadership, but also of the public relations and marketing department and the Department of International Cooperation, which also cares for the non-governmental organizations such as ITIA, UNIMA, ACITES, and so on. The Arts and Theatre Institute is also organizer of Prague Quadrennial, the world's biggest exhibition and festival of theatre design in space. I will talk a little bit more about it in a minute. Before I describe the Theatre Institute and its activities, mainly the theatre documentation in detail, I would like to tell a few words about the Arts Institute, which is dedicated to the foreign promotion of the arts and to providing information, education, consultation, and research in this field. The Arts Institute encourages a strategic approach to culture, and it supports and connects culture professionals and artists across different disciplines, while it also contributes to their professional growth on the national and international scenes. The Arts Institute organizes activities, projects, and programs that reflect current needs on the contemporary arts and culture, thereby supports the advancement and status of the arts and culture in the society. Here are some examples of its activities. The Arts Institute Academy is the educational program that offers to the culture managers each year an intensive lectures and practical workshops which help to develop the skills that they need to effectively manage a cultural organizations as a strategic planning, marketing, leadership, fundraising, project management, creative thinking, and so on. The Arts Institute runs a creative residency program in which it coordinates and arranges residencies for artists from different fields, as well as residencies abroad. The Institute also sees to the needs of artists from abroad in the Czech Republic. In the research field, the Arts Institute focuses primarily on the cultural policy. Its main research project was focused on mapping culture and creative industries in the Czech Republic. The Institute implements projects that are designed to promote Czech arts abroad and to foster international cooperation, especially in the fields of contemporary and classical music, dance, literature, and the visual arts. It collaborates on export showcase in the Czech Republic, arranges participation in international festivals and fairs, and publishes promotional materials. Currently, its biggest project is the export-oriented music office Soundcheck, which performs a broad range of activities aimed at promoting Czech music in the Czech Republic and its export abroad. Of course, the current situation where the traveling is complicated or impossible, for some time, the needs of rethinking of some of these activities and the new way of promotion and international cooperation are researched and tested. The Institute runs online portals and platforms that offer information on various cultural subjects and sectors. CultureNet is the main tool of communication for professionals. It provides information about new grant calls, job opportunities for collaboration, interesting events such as conferences, new publications, and cultural policy news. Archeck, which is the very new portal, is an online guide designed for international artists, organizations, and managers, general public, and also for foreigners living in the Czech Republic. It provides key information about Czech contemporary art scene. Creative Czechia, a platform which with information on the culture and creative industries that have an impact on society and economy. Intercultural Dialogue, a Czech language platform, focuses on intercultural dialogue aimed at organizations in the non-profit sector and their work in the areas of culture and education. Soundcheck, I mentioned the activities of Soundcheck, but this is a portal which connects the music professionals in the international scene. Similar is a Perform Check, which connects professionals working in the theater, dance and news circus to the international scene or contemporary circus, let's say. Both these portals are in Czech and English. And last but not least, the Czech Mobility Info, an information portal aimed at professionals working in the culture sector who need to deal with the practical issue of engaging an international artistic cooperation such as taxes, visas, insurance, and author contract. This portal is in Czech and English, and this is an important portal for people who want to work here as foreigners, or for people from the art sector who needs to travel abroad for workings. So now some pictorial material. The biggest event organized by Arts and Theatre Institute is the Prague Quadrennial of Performance Design and Space. This is the biggest festival of its kind in the world. It was founded in 1967. The event is dedicated to exploring every element of performance space design, set design, costumes, lighting, sound, along with new methods of scenic design that are reflected in site-specific performances, applied in stage design, street performances, costumes performance, and much more. The 15th Prague Quadrennial will take place in 2023. And I'm sure you know that the main award on PQ 2019, the Golden Trigger, was awarded to the North Macedonian exhibit This Building Talks Truly by Ivana Vaseva, Frozina Zafirovska, and Filip Janovsky. I will show you the picture. Along with the festival, Prague Quadrennial also works as a platform for international collaboration in artistic and educational projects, encouraging experimenting, networking, innovation, and future collaborations. For describing all the activities, events, educational programs, international collaboration, and projects which take place under the leadership or which participation of Prague Quadrennial, we would need a separate presentation. Please follow its website to learn more about it. For us, for now, is important the fact that all the issues of Prague Quadrennial were properly documented. The documentation is available online until the year 2011, but in the old system and old style. Its transformation to the proper system is now in the process. So this is the picture from the North Macedonian exhibit. Golden Trigger was awarded, and it was a short performance which was played several times during the day. This is from exhibition Fragments, where the top designers from all over the world was presented in the very special place. This is a view to the main exhibition hall, or one of the main exhibition halls. This was a very special event as a part of so-called formations, which was live events during Prague Quadrennial. This is a vertical dance. And this is the design of web page of Prague Quadrennial, so please follow there and find everything what you would like to know about the Prague Quadrennial. So now I will step backward, but in fact, in the current situation, I was asked by Ivanka Apostolova to say something about our activities during the COVID restrictions this year in the spring. Unfortunately, we all hope that everything is gone, but now we are in the same situation. So I think that some of these activities will be newly applied. As the COVID situation is still serious, I would like to share in short our experience and activities from spring. We started with the very first quick mapping of the impact of restriction of the culture sector. The results of this quick research were published on 16th March, and its publication was done via a new special newsletter called Culture in Quarantine. 11 editions of this newsletter were published in Czech and in English. The last one was published at the start of July. The newsletter consisted of the actual information about COVID measures, about possibilities of government support, about for artists and technical staff, about new innovative attitudes in performing arts, and last but not least, the good practices from abroad. So now, unfortunately, we are about to recommence it, and 2 days ago, new issue of this newsletter, Culture in Quarantine, was published again, unfortunately. The big research of COVID impact to the culture sector, which was realized by IT, together with the Department of Production of Drama Faculty and the Department of Culture of Management of the University of Economics in Prague. It was a complex research realized by the online questionnaire separated according to the type of arts, the performing arts, music sector, fine arts, galleries and museums, and according to the type of a subject, the physical person, non-profit organization, and business bodies. It was run from March. The dates were collected in monthly periods. The data was collected in a monthly period. The research team will continue on this work, and its first output were commented by them in the first edition of the podcast titled Souffleur. It means prompter. In the next edition, the podcast will evolve the topics from the Culture in Quarantine newsletter. Unfortunately, this podcast is only in Czech, but it's a very good form how to inform people about the outputs of this research in quite nice way. Let's say the discussion, the interviews. The other activity, which was prepared in connection to COVID, was focused on video recording of the theater performances. When theater was closed in the start of March, many of them started to stream the archive recordings of their performances. And the quality of these recordings was very often poor. Colleagues prepared a series of Zoom webinars titled How to Show Performing Arts Online. Which in Czech jak na scénická umění online. The audience of the webinars could participate in moderated roundtable discussions with the experts and professionals. Webinars were separated into 4 parts, plus 2 more at the end. They were methodology of the complete recording of the theater performance, the cutting of the theater performance recording, the dramaturgy of the recording of the theater performance, and 4th was the author law aspects in recordings of performances. The series was expanded of 2 more webinars, how to do subtitles for a theater performance, where the translators and interpreters of theater performance discussed the topic, and how to document and archive theater performance in recordings, which was also a platform for our own experience. We also did some experience with an online exhibition that we prepared for the 100th anniversary of the stage designer Ondrej Svoboda. 6 short videos and text descriptions of 32 selected performances in Czech and in English are used there. This exhibition is still available and will be available until the 10th of January 2021. So, finally, I can step forward and describe the Theatre Institute and its activities in detail. What you see now is our credo, I can say, or mission, which we created during the workshop focused on brand building. So the Theatre Institute is the only institution in the Czech Republic that, with love and professionalism, studies and records, preserves and provides access to information on the theatre to anyone interested in learning about its history and its present. We are the memory of Czech theatre. As once a work for the stage has its final performance, it's gone. So this is our credo, let's say. For the start, I will mention all the departments and their mission. Then I will focus deeper on the theatre documentation. The library collects, processes, preserves, and provides access to Czech theatre literature and periodicals, and to the selected international literature of theatre. The library contains 120,000 items, comprising special theatre literature, theatre texts, literature in related fields, and periodicals. The bibliography department administers an electronic database and card catalog with the references to articles on Czech theatre dating from 1851 up to the present day. There are more than 720,000 entries in the department's bibliography collections. It's partly in electronic catalog and partly in the card catalog. The department is one of the most important sources of information on Czech theatre in terms of the range of literature it captures, and because of the department's observance of high cataloging standard. The publishing department is the center of the publishing activities. It publishes original and translated works in the fields of theatre history, theory, and criticism, as well as the professional and editorial management of the publications it produces itself. The department also collaborates on publishing projects with other departments. The Czech Theatre Studies Department is the research center that conducts research on the history of theatre in the Czech Republic from the Middle Ages up to the present, and in relation to the wider context of European theatre history. Its main output, except for the books and articles, Its main output, except for the books and articles in expert magazines, is the online Czech Theatre Encyclopedia. A collections and archive department collects, preserves, and presents object and archival materials connected to the Czech theatre. It processes large collections of stage designs and theatre photographs and posters, which are then digitized so that they are accessible to the public. A documentation department collects and facilitates access to information on the theatre work of professional Czech theatres and companies that have existed since 1945. It archives theatre programs, print materials, newspaper clippings, photographs, and presents information on current events in the field of theatre. Materials are sorted into different collections and they can be accessed by researchers in the reading rooms of the Arts and Theatre Institute or online through the virtual study. I will talk more about the virtual study in a minute. When I talk about the documentation activities, I don't mean just the documentation department. The documentation activities are in fact done all the departments of the Theatre Institute. The documentation activities started together with the establishing of the Theatre Institute in 1959. And the structure which was set those days is still valid. The principle is basic: theatre production as the main entry. In the paper form, which we kept until the 2010, the paper materials as leaflets, press cuttings, invitations, posters, and so on, were collected basically into the envelopes dedicated to particular production, which was marked by the numeric code. The orientation in the archive was done by the paper catalogue, sorted according to the author's names. There were some supportive catalogues and lists, as a list of the premieres in theatres and so on. The bills of productions are kept separately and bound in books for each theatre season. Also, photographs and the photocopies of stage design or positive or slides were stored separately. These are just the pictures to our collections. This is stage design collections. The important moment came in the mid-90s, when the first computer database for evidence of theatre productions was launched. Its architecture was inspired by the structure of previous practices, which archiving paper materials. We have a different interface for the administration, this is this one, you can see, and for the presentation of the database. Now you can see the administration interface, but all our data and digitized objects are available to the public in the online application virtual study. I mentioned it. And this virtual study I will use for explanation of structure of the theatre documentation. I believe it's more illustrative. So the virtual study is the most important output of all of our documentation work. It's a comprehensive interface for accessing all of the Institute's informational databases. The study's objective is to facilitate research, increase the information value of the database materials through their joint and interconnected publishing, to provide access to the materials that would otherwise be inaccessible or accessible only to a limited extent, for example, negatives or slides from photographic and scenographic archives. And the last but not least, to protect the original materials which would suffer from the regular use. The base, the central point of this net, is the entry about the production. You can see it. There is the date of premiere, the signature of paper materials, and also genre is evident here. The central entry is linked with the other information from subbases. The first subbases are the personal subbase, people. We can add the people in some role as the author of text or music, conductor, stage designer, choreographer, light designer, translator, and so on. We have a special list of the theatre professions which consists of more than 200 items. Of course, the most important are performing people, the actors, performers, singers, dancers. We can connect these people together with the character in the performance. You can see it here. This tool can also follow the alternations. It means the situation when one character is played by more actors. The special sub-base is the play or script. We can follow the development of the script which is staged in the particular theater for the particular production. We know about the original, about the translation, about the dramaturgist adaptation, about the dramatization. For the illustration, the novel by Fyodor Dostoevsky, The Demons, was dramatized, it means transformed to the drama by Albert Camus. It was translated into Czech by Jaroslav Král and adapted by Zdeněk Kaloč, and it was staged in the National Theatre in Brno. So this is some CV of theatre's play. Of course, the theatre company, the ensemble and the place of performance are also connected in this theatre subbase. We can, for example, do the evidence of changing the names of the theatres in a history and connect stages to the theatre institutions. We can also follow in which festival or foreign guest performance the production was shown. In the next subbase, we do documentation of a theatre festival in Czech Republic, showing the Czech productions abroad or foreign production in Czech Republic. Here are also exhibition, lectures, conferences, and other side events inputted. This subbase will also include the Prague Quadrennial archive, which I mentioned. It will be implemented next year, so it will get a very new and huge content, which brings a new possibility for presentation and same as for research. Back to the entry about the production. We have other databases which communicates to the main database and use its data and relations as the metadatabases. We use these databases for archiving of pictorial materials, digitized or digital born photos, stage design, or some graphic materials. The first is the photography database. This database is designed in the way which enables us to use all the metadata about the content, the name of performance, authors and staging team, the date of premiere, etc. And in the virtual study, the photos are connected directly to the production. You can see it here. And it also offers the special tool for describing the performers or characters in the photo. You can see it's not very readable, but in this bottom line, there are characters and actors on the photo appointed. In this photo database, we can add the information about the original paper material, its size, information about colors, if it's a color or black and white. The most important thing is the name of the photographer, of course, we can see it here. And of course, the place of storing, the signature of the material, which help us to find it in the case of need for printing and everything. The very similar principles are used in the stage design database. This database is separated into two parts. One is used for stage design documentation. It means the digitized materials which are not in our ownership. The second is also for evidence of museum collection, and the information required by the law are input here. We have also a big collection of video recordings which came from different sources, partly recorded from TV, partly gifts from the theaters, and partly from our own production. This collection is strictly protected by copyright and is used just for individual projection, just in our study rooms in ATI building. You can see in this production is quite a lot of video recordings, because it's from the start of 90s when video became obvious, and this director used it for almost all rehearsals, and he changed the production during it was in run, so he recorded some of the performances and work again and continuously on it. The other databases are dedicated to library collection and the theater bibliography, as I already mentioned. It is a separate software developed especially for libraries, and it took some time to find a way how to arrange the connection to documentation database. Finally, we were able to do it using the ID codes of the production entries. This is this code. So, which brings us the possibility to connect the production to the particular script which is stored in the library, and to show the bibliography to the production. The different way is used for connecting the personal entries. The library system is able to communicate with the other libraries via special protocol. So we use this advantage to connect our systems to the national authorities base provided by National Library. This step was very foresighted, because last year the codes from the national authority base were connected to the Wikidata. And Wikidata, I believe, is the best way how to connect different data sources together, how to publish your data, and how to find relevant data for your use. I will show it online later, and you can see here the links to bibliography by person, which means when this man Ottomar Krejčí, this director, was author, or bibliography about the person, which is done with the code of the national authority base. Oh, this is the code of the national authority base. So now I will go online. To show the virtual study as it works in a quick. So on the entry page of the virtual study, you can find all the information about the content of each module. These green numbers are actualized in real time, so you can see that there are more than 14,000 video recordings, almost 50,000 productions, 52,000 stage designed, and more is here, more than 400,000 photographs, and 12,000 theater events there. And we have information about more than 61 professionals working in theater. The virtual study allows us search according to the different criteria and its combination. Here you can see the search engine for the theater production. You can search about all these criteria, and you can somehow combine it. If you go to the scenography or photography module, you can see the very same situation. This is a photography module. Here is, for example, a possibility to search according to the personal photos, which I pre-search. And of course, in the stage design module, which is here, you can search according to name of scenographer. The result of this search is always similar. This is the list of the production, of the relevant production, and you can see the detail of the production, which you already see in my presentation. To special view of some data allow modules professional activities, which makes it possible to quickly find all the activities as author, producer, or actor for every individual person. You can see this man, Otomar Krejča, who was the director of the performance I showed you before. He started from 44 in this role as an actor. His field directing was in 1945. We can see that he was active in 121 events or theater performance. He was mostly known as a director then. And module casting and role allows us to search the production in which selected role appears, or which role the actor had. You can combine name of actor and name of role, and now you can see all the Hamlets in the Czech theater after the Second World War. The last module added to the virtual study is the oral history evidence. We started with capturing the memories of all people worked in the theater field several years ago. We have not published all the interviews in audio records because they are from 4 to 10 hours long, but we have written the list of topic and time, like this one, which help the user with orientation in the interview. You can find all the names which are mentioned or in the interview, or all the important events or situations. So back to my presentation. Now I would like to say something about the accessibility of digitized materials. Our credo is that we, as the public institutions, would like to provide all the information and materials which we have in the most open way as possible. The only limitation for us is the author law, licensing, and the protection of personal data. The information which is collected by our staff, content or database, is published under Creative Commons as open data. It means anybody else can use this content for theater. I'm sorry. It means anybody else can use this content for their project or application. We do not publish the personal data in this way. such as the date of birth and so on, but the information about professional activities of artists and theaters. For the photography, we did a mailing campaign and asked all the photographers to sign the simple agreement that we can use their photos and show them in the virtual study. This step is mutually beneficial because we do a good quality backup of these photos, and the potential end users, as writers, journalists, TV producers, and so on, can find the photos in the internet, and we can provide them with the contact to the photographers. So the database helps to spread also their work. In the case of stage design, the practice is very same, but I have to say that designers are not so much open as photographers. Let's say that just 50% of stage designs agreed with online presentations. Never mind, the internet user got an information that the particular design exists and that it is available in the Arts and Theatre Institute building. We do not publish the digitized press cuttings and other originally printed materials because the licensing is unclear in this case. So all of them, it is about maybe 700,000 items, are available just in-house. The exceptions of the online sources that are accessible for free, they are linked direct from the bibliography database. As I said before, the video recordings are strictly limited just for in-house individual projection. So I think I can stop this explanation of the virtual study here. I am open to all the questions, and if anybody wants to learn more about our practices, you are welcome here in Prague for the practical presentation. Now I would like to mention in short our other online projects, or some of, which are not the real integral part of the virtual study now, but which are inseparable parts of our work and the data environment. The first is a multilingual database of theater architecture, which was built in the frame of the international project Theater Architecture in Central Europe, which we ran between 2008 and 2011. The success is that we are still able to keep the database in operation, and there are other projects that uses its structure and tools. I can show you the database in a short. Here you can see the other projects which are connected to the database. This is the database itself. Originally, it was a theater architecture in Central Europe, but we renamed the database to the European Theater Architecture. But as you can see, you can see there are theaters from all over the world. Its advantage is the multilingual platform. You can see some theater are in more languages. The database can be easily transformed into other language and started to be used immediately. The several possibilities how to display the data and the theater are two levels. There are two levels of what the entry can look like. The complete levels means the detailed description of the historical development of building, mostly written by art historians. It's look like this, for example. You can see some CV of the building, the main events in the life of the building. You can see some details of this. Here are the people who participated on the architect, sculpture, etc. Again, you can see some details if there are some. And here is the historical entry about the building, not about the performance practices, but the building, the literature, etc. You can see some supplements as pictures, or sometimes there are plans, and here you can see the technical data about the stages. So you can add more stage to one building. The short entries, which are this, means just the basic information about the theater. For education, may be useful the timeline view, which can give an overview of development of theatrical space. The data from this database are also shared in Wikipedia, Wikidata, sorry. The second project is the Czech Theatre Encyclopedia Online. The second project is the Czech Theatre Encyclopedia Online. This is a bilingual project. The parts about the German-spoken theatre in Czech countries has also a German version of entries. This platform is used for a quick publication of the outputs of the theatrical research work. It is linked to the series of bibliographical encyclopedias, which have been published as a book since 1990s. The content are biographical entries prepared by the researcher, and it represents the basic and comprehensive information sources for any follow-up research. Just a short overview. You can see one actor from the 20th century. This is the entry. Here is the roles in the theater. Here are some sources and literature about her. It is separated to the different volumes according to the type of theater, music theater, drama theater, and separated according to the era. So several times I mentioned terms as open data or Wikidata. I don't know how familiar you are with this way of sharing data, but it is something that we have been focused on in the last years. The open data allows anybody to use your data for his application in the same way how, for example, the meteorological data or public transport timetables are used in mobile applications. But it needs some programmer skills. From my point of view, the Wikidata is the better way how to offer your data and how also get data from other sources for your use. Another advantage is that there is a huge group of experienced people around all the wiki projects who are able to give you a professional help as volunteers. The definition of Wikidata tells us Wikidata is a free and open knowledge base that can be rated and edited by both humans and machines. Wikidata acts as a central storage for the structured data of its Wikimedia sister projects, including Wikipedia and others. Wikidata also provides support to many other sites and services beyond just Wikimedia projects. The connect of Wikidata is available under a free license, export using standard formats, and can be interlinked to the other open data sets. I think it contains all the qualities which we need for our work. I'd like to stress especially the structured data. For Wikidata, structure is obvious. It can distinguish the theater as a company, the theater as an institution, the theater as a building or a stage. What's more, for example, the Wikidata know that the performance is the representations of performing arts production. So, and so on. There is a kind of ontology prepared. There is information about many people and places. There are many pictorial materials which can be used under the Creative Commons licensing. I think that for anybody who is now starting with building some kind of documentation database or any activity in these fields, the Wikidata can offer a lot of information and data prepared by others. It can save a lot of work and a lot of research. We are in the process of linking our database to Wikidata. We link the theaters from database of theater architecture, which I showed you. We are in the process of linking the theater components and stages from the virtual study. And we are also working on linking the personal information from there. Next year, we will continue with the Czech Theatre Encyclopedia and with the Prague Quadrennial archive. The theatre documentation in the Arts and Theatre Institute is done in the most widespread way. Our will is to cover all the activities in the professional theatres in the Czech Republic. We don't do any selection. We do not evaluate artistic quality of performance on the documentational level. Our main task is to collect, to describe, to classify, to save, and to make accessible as much information and objects as possible. We are building the memory of the Czech theatre, and our goal is to keep it for future. But of course, there could be also a different attitudes to the documentation of theatre. The experts in the theatre department of the National Museum in Prague started few years ago with the complete documentation of process of the development of the theatre production. This experiment was done as a part of a project called Documentation of the Present. They choose two productions each year, one from the big classical theater and one from the experimental independent theater. Of course, the director have to agree with their participation. And they follow all the process of preparation from the first rehearsal to the premiere. Usually, two persons participated in this process. They document the work of the theater team during the rehearsals on video. They do written reports from each rehearsal. They take pictures. They also interview the artists and the directors and stage designers and store one other site materials connected to the performance. So compared to our practice, they strictly focus just for a very small part of contemporary theatre culture, but their view is really detailed and they produce a lot of materials. I think this way of documenting can be interesting, for example, for research or director's methods or for some specific process, but always it has to be research in the context of the contemporary situation which we can provide. So I'm slowly at the end of my presentation. Maybe I stop the share the screen, and in the end I would like to stress why the documentation is so important. It is something that is absolutely clear for us as a people from the theatre field, but it needs not to be clear to the public, and it's important to describe it to the people responsible for allocating money. Theatre is nothing original left from the moment when the production is finished. Their theatre doesn't have any objects can be stored. The theatre is a simultaneous process consisting of different parts. which can or needn't exist separately. We have to try to archive everything. As a theater has not the individual artifact, we have to archive everything that can tell us something about the particular performance, not just the original materials as a stage design, costume, music records, director scenarios, but also so-called secondary artifacts as the photography from the performance, reviews, articles, PR materials, poster, and so on. The archiving, protecting, and preserving the materials is the main task of all this work. But the presentation or availability has the same importance. Each particular performance must be stored and presented in the wider context of contemporary theater. And at the end, the teamwork and institutional partnership are also very important in the documentation process. There is a lot of information online which can be more or less easily used. With some simplification, we can say that the base of electronic documentation of theater activities is just reusing the information which is online already, provided by theaters, by festival libraries, and other subjects. So let's try to find the easiest way how to use this information in a new context. So thank you. This is all from me for now.
Ondrej, thank you very much. This was very inspiring and useful lecture. I have one question. Can you tell me something more about the importance? You already mentioned the importance of team. How do you build and rebuild your team? How do you collaborate with new generation students from the Dramatic Academy, the Department of Theatrology, Dramaturgy, particularly students who are interested to enter into the field of documenting, researching the theatrical, contemporary, and historical materials? And under what criteria you receive new members in your team? For example, we are very individual Macedonians, we're very individual society, and that's why we have lack of, how can I say, very firm continuity in documenting archivic material, not only in the domain of theater, also in visual arts, in any other aspect of contemporary and historical culture.
Yeah, I think the term team can be mentioned into two levels. I think in the small countries, as we are, the team can be presented by the institutions which can work in the same way, which means if they work in the same way, in the same structure, it is simply connected. It can be simply connected. So this is a first level. But to your question, fortunately, here in the Theatre Institute, and especially in this Theatre Institute departments, are not big fluctuation of people. The people working here usually from some personal wills, and they are interested in theater, and they would like to work on this kind of documentation. And so it takes some time when they are connected to our system of work databases and everything, but then they are able to stay for a long time. And we, as we have some digitalization project, which usually, if you would like to digitize it in some companies, can be very expensive, and it's always needs to prepare the materials. We started work with the students who help us to prepare the materials and who also digitized the materials here. And we have mostly students from the drama faculty or from the theater science faculty or department. And it's advantage because they people are interested in the theater, and they can work with these materials not as just with a piece of paper, but with a piece of information, which is very important. And usually from this students recruits, and these students who work with us, who help us with the preparation of materials, etc. From the students recruit some new employees for the Theatre Institute when some places are free.
Yes.
Which is not very often.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, thank you. I have another question about this very interesting, inspiring project. Another question is this very interesting international projects you're working on, like European theatrical or theater architecture. Project like this are already closed, or they're still open for updates in order some new countries to fulfill the material, the documenting process with materials from, for example, visual materials, scientific materials connected with our theaters. Are there any chances additionally to become part of that project, or is it closed?
Yeah, the project itself is closed because it was supported by European Commission from the Culture 2000 project, but the database is in Iran, and I'm happy that I'm able to keep it in Iran. And as I mentioned, there was other projects as a historical theater, European theater, European historical theater routes. Or now there is a theater in Latin America, for example, and the database itself is open to anybody. So it's no problem to translate to any language. It's about 200 items in some Excel table, and we can run it in the different language, and you can have access to the database and put information about theater architecture, about the buildings there. Or if you have just a few information, you can send us and we will put it there.
Yes, yes.
And I would like to mention one change which I did in my mind in this case of the theater architecture, because 10 years ago, which is quite a lot of time,
yes.
There was a rule that the people could add items about the theater architecture in their national language and the English. And English was the covering language for everything, and we tried to keep that English must be everywhere, for all theater must be in English. But 2 years ago I changed my mind, and I'm open to information in any languages at first, because some of the information are as a geographical information and pictorial information which needn't have a language. And secondly, I think that we are quite close to the situation when automatic translators will not be maybe good for literature, but for technical information it can be used. So don't spend the time with and money for translation into English, but put the information into database in your language.
This is very, very useful. Thank you. And can you tell me, you already work on the program of PQ, the next edition of Prague Quadrennial. And can you tell me, because it's a quadriennale, how much time do you need to define the very next topic of the very next edition? Okay, now with COVID, everything is unpredictable. But anyhow, we must continue, right? Following our obligations and schedules, and hoping that things will be stabilized very soon, or at least later. So how much time do you need to define the very next topic of Prague Quadrennial, and to start accepting materials, first of all, teams, curators, teams of curators, of programmers actually, who are who are enriching the program following the basic topic, the basic thematic goal.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm not a member of the core team of Prague Quadrennial.
Okay.
I'm collaborated with them in some parts, and I was responsible for the documentation, taking pictures, etc. But this documentation is done in several ways, because the social media brings some new and different quality to the how to events are documented, but it's a separate question. To your question, so I can't say it in detail, but the preparation for each PQ takes 4 years. It's definitely, but of course the first year is some evaluation of last year, and for example, to found and to booked the place for Prague Quadrennial is quite complicated, because it needs more than 10,000 square meters, and for the example technical staff of the industry palace when the Prague Quadrennial was last time is very, very bad. So now we know the new place. It will be in a different place, not far from this, but this is the first. And the Prague Quadrennial team also has a lot of international projects. You mentioned in the start the project Canon. The Prague Quadrennial is the part of the project which is lit in Belgium. Is the educational project for the students of the stage design or more the stage technical science, and it should bring to them to have an overview about the history of the stage technologies and about the developing of the stage technologies. And PQ also lead some projects. They apply for the grants in Europe program, Creative Europe, and they lead the project. So there is a in between this these editions of PQ in these 4 years, there are many smaller or bigger events organized by PQ. And let's say 2 years ago the date, they are starting to work with the curators with the countries. They create the topics and create the how to say the way how to or to create the side events, the accompanying events, and this. And usually they do some conference about showing the performance design and so on. So yeah, the PQ is once per 4 years, but in fact it's a very continual work and process.
Yes. And another question, do you sometimes offer internship training sessions, not only for domestic, but also for foreign theatrical researchers, theatrical artists, people who would like to learn successful methodologies in documenting and archiving?
So we don't have our own internship program,
Yes.
but we can host, for example, students from Erasmus program, or we can host and explain everything to the people who are interested in it in any part of our work. So yeah, we are open to anybody to come and help us or to learn from us, but we can't participate in a financial way.
Yes, I understand. Right. Dear Ondrej, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you as a digital guest. Big thank you to you for being our guest,
Mm.
to your institute helping us in co-sharing Zoom meeting. Thank you very much to the Czech Embassy in Republic of North Macedonia for their co-support. I appreciate a lot. And thank you very much for our Ministry of Culture that supports our practical and organizational work in same time. I wish you all the best, a lot of health, a lot of creativity and productivity, and this COVID to end as soon as possible.
Thank you, thank you. It was my pleasure to be here and to have a possibility to presentation.
Thank you.